Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel, and welcome to the video of car vibrations. In today's video, I want to share with you some tips and information to diagnosing car vibrations and distinguishing between them. This video is heavily based on people coming in the shop and asking me about vibrations, or their descriptions sometimes makes the diagnosis incorrect on their side, and I wanted to share with you a lot of tips to help you when you do have a vibration with your car. You'll be able to distinguish what's what and potentially be on the road to a correct diagnosis right after this. The first type of vibration is one that is felt at higher speeds. But first, before we dig into it, I want to tell you this is something you must be able to distinguish. Do you feel the vibration in the steering wheel only, or do you feel it in the body? And the difference between the two is very important, because if you feel the vibration in the steering wheel, odds are the vibration is in the front of the car, something in the front causing the vibration to transfer through the rack, through the steering shaft into the steering, and you can feel it. If you feel the vibration in the body of the car, or most importantly, the seat, you literally feel your seat shaking, that is in the rear. Sometimes you will have vibrations in the front that you don't feel in the steering wheel, but you do feel in the seat. But most of them, almost 90% of the time, it is going to be the rear. So let's start with the first one, the easy stuff, the classic. You don't have vibrations at low speeds. You drive a certain speed, high speeds, let's say 65, 70 miles an hour. All of a sudden the steering wheel starts shaking. You go over that speed, it stops shaking. You go under that speed, it shakes. It only shakes at a specific speed. 9 times out of 10, that is wheel balance or tire issue, bent wheel, or out of round hubs. Out of round hubs is a little bit of an involved thing. Unless you've been in an accident, something extreme happened, they don't just bend on their own. But wheels bent on potholes, tires, shift belts and whatnot, we'll talk about those in a little bit. But the main thing is tire balance. It will only vibrate at a certain speed range. Before it, it won't. After it, it won't. And the reason for that is wheel balance will start causing a harmonic vibration through the body, and only a certain speed will be pronounced enough where you feel it in the steering wheel. So that is very important. But the second one is you have vibrations at any high speed. And when you drive slow, you feel kind of lumpy. You feel like literally the car is doing this, rocking back and forth at low speeds, and then it starts vibrating a lot. That's a classic sign of a bent wheel. If it's minor, if it's major, you might be looking at broken belts in the tire or flat spots. Flat spots, usually the car will need to be parked for an extensive period of time, 2 months plus, been parked, never moved. You'll have a flat spot that'll vibrate when you drive. But broken belts, very easy to tell because it'll have a lump. Every time that broken belt part contacts the ground, it'll lift that part of the car, bring it down, and it'll vibrate a lot at high speeds. And if you felt this vibration in the steering, that's the fronts. More than likely it's the fronts. If you felt it in the seat, it is the rear. So the same thing with wheel balance, because you could have front wheels that are out of balance or one wheel that is out of balance, and that's why you're having the vibration. But here's something important. If you have a vibration only in the steering wheel or only in the body of the car, not in the steering wheel, usually if it's a wheel tire issue, if you rotate the tires, you should feel a difference. Maybe it's not resolved, but for example, if you had one wheel in the back that is out of balance, when you move it in the front, now you don't feel the vibration in the body of the car or the seat. You feel it in the steering wheel. You just confirmed that indeed we have an issue with this, and you can actually rotate one side and see if it changes. If it does, you found out which tire exactly that needs attention. That's how you pin it down to exactly what's going on. But when you rotate the tires and nothing changes, you might need to investigate further, because it might not have to do with the tires. However, sometimes it does, because if all 4 wheels are out of balance, you rotate them, it's not going to change much because we still have the same thing. The second type of vibration is when braking. And this one is a little simple, but there are a few things I want to share. You brake, especially at higher speeds or when the brakes are really hot, and the steering wheel starts pulsating or shaking. That is front brakes, and specifically the rotors are warped. Folks, in a few seconds, here's how car brakes work. You have a big disc, which is the rotor. and you have two pads that are squeezed on this disc to stop the car. But when the surface of this rotor is not perfectly flat, it'll have waves in it. Every time the pads contacts it and you get a high wave, it's going to pull up, pull down, pull up, pull down, and that translates into vibration at higher speeds. But here are a few things about brake vibration. You feel it in the steering wheel, it is front. You feel it in the seat only, not in the steering wheel, it is the rears. But there are a few cases where things will feel strange. You'll drive the car, you hit the brakes, the steering wheel doesn't shake, the seat doesn't shake, but the pedal itself starts pulsating. When that happens, that's usually one side of the rotor is warped. It's not enough to cause a huge vibration, but it'll start pushing the piston in and out, and you'll feel that pulsing feeling in the pedal only. That is one of the odd things, but every time you have vibration when you're braking, 9 out of 10 times, it is actually warped rotors. But there are cases where it's not, and this is what you got to watch for, but I'm hoping you picked up the other symptoms. If you have, for example, a loose tie rod, a worn control arm bushing, you may get some vibrations when braking, but you're putting extreme force on these components and they'll kind of start moving and shaking the wheel, and that's why. But these are extreme cases where you're going to feel the car not driving right, making noise over bumps, kind of wandering and weaving at a highway, but that is the main thing. The first thing you check is brakes. Now, if you get to a case where you replace the rotors and the vibration comes back very rapidly within a week, you may have bent hubs. So the hub is where the rotor sits on. If that's bent, it's also going to cause a vibration. But again, hubs don't bend on their own. Either severe accident that bent the hub, bad repair practices like over-tightening the lug nuts will bend the hubs. Otherwise, that is not the first thing you look at. You can measure the runout on the head and the hub, but if you're DIYing this or you're just kind of curious what's going on, that would be not the first thing I would look at. I would look at rotors first. And the third type of vibration is one that is very tricky and one that most people get incorrect. It only vibrates, and the whole body of the car vibrates when you accelerate. This one is a classic. The only thing that would cause this kind of vibration is the driveline or the joints that transfer power. The only time they'll vibrate is when you load them. A classic example of that is CV axles. If you have play in that CV axle, when you put force on it, you're trying to twist it, it's going to start vibrating and you'll feel that. It almost feels like a flutter. I hope this makes sense because it's hard to iterate that feeling in a video, but it's a flutter. You feel like kind of the more you accelerate, the more the body of the car starts shaking. As soon as you let go of the gas, it completely goes away. That is a CV axle. A loose CV axle will do that. Not loose as in bolting wise loose, but loose as an internal joint has play or has up and down movement. The other one is if you have an all-wheel drive car or rear-wheel drive car, loose U-joints will do that as well. It'll do exactly the same feeling. Although CV axles will do it a little bit more pronounced, but loose U-joints and a drive shaft will do that as well. But here's another thing that is important. On Toyotas and Lexus, now this is what our channel mainly focuses on the passenger side, in some cars you will have the axle and then a bearing to support it, then it goes into the transmission. If that bearing is loose or it has play, it will do exactly the same thing. The easiest way is just to grab the axle, move it up and down, make sure it has zero movement on the bearing. If it has even the tiniest movement, time to replace it. Then the second way you check CV axles, grab the axle itself, move it up and down. There should not be excessive movement. Now sometimes you grab the axle where it goes into the transmission, there will be a little bit of movement, but if it's excessive, there is a problem. And the common thing that I see is wrong axles when you go buy aftermarket axles. That's why I usually dislike aftermarket axles, because unless you get them from a good source, sometimes they're wrong size altogether and this axle seal leaks and you wonder why is it leaking? Well, because it's not the right axle for the car. That's why. And the last type of vibration is one that will be difficult to diagnose, but hear me out here. Wheel bearing vibrations. Most people assume wheel bearings will make noise, roaring noise as you get higher and higher in speed. But sometimes wheel bearings will, especially if you have like a Lexus that is quiet and insulated, you'll actually feel the vibration. And the wheel bearing makes a distinct vibration that is once you feel it once and you verify it is a wheel bearing, you will not forget it. You'll feel the floor of the car hum or vibrate. And it's very unexplainable how that is. Usually accompanied by sound, but sometimes you can't hear the sound. You just feel that roughness. Now, this is the tricky part with bearings. We did a video on how to diagnose bearings. Easiest way is lift the car up, put your hand on the strut spring, and then turn the wheel, you'll hear it. But other things that cause this type of kind of harmonic vibration in the body or in the floor of the car is worn bearings in the transmission, in the transfer case, in the differential. So it's extremely important that when you have that kind of vibration, you actually get it, either you know what you are doing and you can diagnose it properly, or take it to a professional to do that, because wheel bearings can be extremely tricky to diagnose sometimes. Here's the problem with wheel bearings and why they can be tricky to diagnose. We're going to use one of these FJ Cruisers in the background as an example, because that's a very common offender. You hear a noise from the back. This is the common thing. People complain, I hear a roaring noise from the back. I think my rear end is going, even though they're common to go on these. But you drive the car. You swerve side to side. The noise goes away and then comes back. Every time you put the weight of the car on one side, the sound comes back. Whatever side you put the weight of the car on, that's the side that's making noise, because you loaded that bearing, it started making noise. If you have that, when you turn, it changes sound, that's more than likely a wheel bearing, not something with the driveline. But the biggest problem, which one, front or back? Don't use your ears driving the car, because that is how you make the mistakes. Use your feeling. So you feel that hum and you feel that vibration in the floor. Do you feel it in the steering wheel? That's the biggest thing. If you feel it in the steering wheel, it's more than likely front. If you don't, you might be the back, but not always. This is the tricky part. Wheel bearing diagnosis is tricky, but if you feel that harmonic vibration in the body of the car, like the floor of the car, be chasing after a wheel bearing. But the biggest thing about wheel bearings, you gotta make sure you don't have tires that have rough edges that are mimicking a wheel bearing. And the easiest way to do that, in a lift at least, you lift all four wheels off the ground securely and then drive the car and then lift. Now, if it's an all-wheel drive car, it'll be very easy. If it's a front wheel, rear wheel, it might be a little difficult, but spin the wheels in the air. If you do not hear the sound, you may be looking at bad tires causing noise. The easiest way for tires to check them, you pass your hand over the tire back and forth. If you feel rough edges, that's called cupping of tires. Or you feel like dips and valleys and kind of dip and up, that's usually how you know for sure this tire is making noise, and this may be your issue, not really a wheel bearing. Folks, when it comes to vibration diagnosis, even though you're not DIYing this, it really helps if you have a general idea of how to describe the symptoms. Because I see folks describe them in many ways where it throws off the diagnosis in a different direction, and then takes a much longer time for it to actually come back. And by the way, this happens at your cost, because if your mechanic is not gonna really spend the time, they might be firing up that parts cannon, and now you're paying all kinds of bills for things that are not fixing your cars. You need to have a basic understanding of where the vibration is from. Is it front? Is it back? Does it happen at a specific speed? You got to mention that and watch that. And then the last thing is, do you feel it in the floor? Is it a roaring noise that goes up accompanied with a roaring noise? Or are you feeling it when you accelerate? This information is vital, and I hope this video gives you a little bit more of an understanding what these different symptoms correlate to in the car. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.